It's
Yeah.
wild. It's wild.
That dude's a clown. But it is what it is.
70+ million people agree with him in this country.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they all think he brought
Debate with bake. Season 4. Let's go. Here we go, Debate with Bake Sports Show, Season 4, live at Mo City Radio. We talking basketball, football, and boxing. You got something to say, man? Jump up in them comments. We just giving opinions, supporting it with proof. Let's look at the stats, cause numbers tell the truth. It ain't no hating, we just debating, interviewing guests so we can learn how they operating. Shout out to PrizePicks for the daily fantasy. Invest a few dollars, let's do some gambling. C-Bake got the topics, and he keep it cracking. Laro got the commentary, and he never lacking. Cole with the game, he live from the Big Apple. You know, Mo Serious Entertainment made it happen. Another sports show, we live from the Mo. Debate with Bake, Season 4, let's go.
That's right. Welcome back. Happy New Year. As you can see with the new intro, we off to a new start in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to DWB. That is Debate with Bake Podcast, brought to you by Mo Serious Entertainment. Check us out at moserious.com. And we are back. That's right. Back for another year. As you can see, we got a new intro, and we are going into 2025 just on some new things, man. Shout out to Chuck for the intro. Shout out to everybody at the Mo Serious family, man, and the Sports Center of Mo Serious is back. I am your host, Charles Baker, a.k.a. Debate with Bake, back in live at 5 from the Mo. Here we are on Happy MLK Day to everybody. And it's good to see everybody. It's good to be back on the air. We took a little bit of break, but you know, we always pumping the hard hits and the hard takes, and we looking to get better. And shout out to everybody who's been supporting the show. Shout out to my man Laro. He's not here today. He's preparing for a snowstorm. We are having a snowstorm down here in Houston, Texas, so we're probably gonna be shutting the city down. But it's still good to be in the house. Roll, if you out there. Shout out to you, baby. If you can get on, you know, we always welcome you to get on the link. And to everybody in the chat, come on back with us for the new year. And then what's going on? Let's go out to NY, see my man Cole sporting a beard. They got some snow out there in NY. Cole, what's up? Happy New Year to you. Happy MLK Day, man. What's going on from the Big Apple, brother?
Chilling, man. It's chilly out here, man. You know, the Jets season over, the Giants season over. But we still got our Bills in New York State, fam. So, you know, we living out here. And the Knicks is okay. We've been losing a little bit here and there. But, you know, other than that, life is good. Happy New Year's to everybody. You know, we're praying that this be a great year. Happy MLK Day. And, you know, today's inauguration. You know, I'm not going to speak on politics, but I guess we could just say pray for the country, man. So
That's right. I wasn't going to even get into that. We'll leave the inauguration day to those who supported this new president, but shout out to everybody. Stay safe out there. It is cold in Houston and in New York. Shout out to my man Chuck once again, man. Again, thank you for the intro,
yes,
Chuck.
Sir.
We are in the house. We got a new season 4. We're looking to get better. We're looking to bring these guests back on, and we're looking to turn the heat up on these debates. And we're looking to continue to grow. Shout out to everybody who's supporting us. Check us out on moserious.com. Make sure you go on there and check out the other podcasts on this network. We're doing some things. Shout out to Mo City Radio and Chuck putting it down for the new deals to come. All the guests that we had in 2024, we're looking to have you back. And we're looking for another season of great hot takes on Debate with Bake. You know, we starting off good with a lot of good sports takes today. So we'll try to get through all of them. But thanks for the support. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you give us that thumbs up. And not only for us, but the whole Mo Serious movement. And let's get into it, man. Cole, coming off the back of every day, we had some exciting NFL action. My main story today to get us kicked off is, let's talk about it. And the reason why we're going to talk about it now is because this game played out last night between the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to the Bills for getting the win. But the biggest question I've been wanting to ask, even before the playoffs started, and even coming off the back of tonight, Cole, wonder if last night, not tonight, but whether it changed your decision on the MVP race. Now, who should be the NFL MVP? And of course, this is a regular season award. And I know I'm asking you that off the back of last night, because last night to me spoke a lot of volumes. But let's talk about it. You got Lamar Jackson. The top three candidates, Cole, is Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Saquon Barkley. Now, I got some rough numbers here, but this is how they finished from the regular season. Lamar Jackson pass yards, I got 3,955. He finished with 852 rushing yards with a total of 53 touchdowns. Josh Allen, 3,549 yards, rush yards 514, total touchdowns 38. And then, of course, my man from Philadelphia. Shout out to the Eagles, man. I think they're the best looking team in the playoffs. But Saquon Barkley, rush yards 1,838. Yards rush per 5.9, and rush TDs 13. Now, Cole, let's talk about it, man, because there's a lot of this is coming off the back of the exciting games we had yesterday. I thought we had a tremendous day in the NFL yesterday with playoff football action, and as well as Saturday. My Texans lost, but I was proud of them. But let's talk about it, man. Who, in your mind, should be the NFL regular season MVP this year?
I'm going to go out and say Josh Allen. I think out of all three, I think they all had amazing years. If there was ever a year they had try MVP, they could definitely be try MVP. I think they all are definitely deserving of the award. However, I think Josh Allen's body of work is a little bit better for a couple of reasons. I think, one, they revamped his whole entire offense. Them revamping the whole entire offense, putting more of the pressure on him to perform, and for them to, one, not only have I think the third best record in the AFC, but also to win their division and also carry them past, the other MVP player in Lamar Jackson, the MVP candidate, former MVP, two-time MVP. I think that tells the story of it all. I think when it comes to Lamar Jackson, he has a way better team. I think year after year, they've been putting talent around him, whether it was getting Hollywood Brown, getting Odell Beckham, whether it was, drafting Bates, whether it was, finding small little gems here and there, bringing Travis Henry, having DK Dobbins. He's always had talent enough around him, good enough talent around him for him to win the big game. And he's shown he's done what he was supposed to do in the regular season, but he's like the Julius Randle of the playoffs. Like, we see what you do in the regular season, but we need more in the playoffs. I don't take anything away from him. I think he's very deserving of the MVP, but I wouldn't give it to him a third time after what Josh Allen just did. Saquon, on the other hand, it's actually hard because part of me wants to go with Saquon too. Running backs usually don't get a lot of accolades anymore. But what he's done is transcended that team, especially a year where Hurts has been injured a lot. He's carried that team, whether having big plays at the right opportune time. I wouldn't have an issue of him winning it over those two. However, I just think Josh Allen body work for what he has on his team is far less than what Philly has. Philly has the best team defense and offensively in the NFL, and then Ravens have probably top three, if that. Buffalo, I think they would probably be a top 10, but I think Josh Allen's play elevates them to top 4, top 5. So,
yeah, I would agree. And I was going to say, I agree 100% with your take, because for me, I think the Ravens and the Eagles are just more stacked on that roster. And that's no knock to either Jackson or Barkley. They both are very, very important parts of the success of both the Ravens and the Eagles. But I just think about the scope of what Buffalo did, and I didn't agree with it. I mean, they cleaned house. I couldn't understand why they let Diggs go. And I couldn't understand why they would. It sort of looked like they were just saying, you know what, we're going to start over. But in hindsight, and kudos to them and their management team and their coaching staff, they knew what they had with Josh Allen. I had some question marks about Josh Allen, on this show, and I've said it 1,000 times. I compare him to Brett Favre. And ladies and gentlemen, don't take it like I'm looking at them and I'm saying physically. I'm saying the gunslinger mentality. And Buffalo, one thing about Josh Allen is he's been able to make some great plays, but the downfall, the criticism I've had about him is he turns the ball over. Well, this year he has not. And the fact of the matter is that they cleaned house and they told us, to me, they told the rest of the world, we are going to get behind Josh Allen. We've got a star-studded defense, kind of on the low. And what I mean by that is you don't hear a lot of big names, but they knew their defense was solid. And they just gambled on Josh. Now they brought in Amari Cooper, which I thought they did something that a lot of teams should have done when you talk about Cooper, and that's make Cooper a number one receiver. And I thought they did a great job with making that acquisition. But Josh Allen has made me a believer. And numbers wise, of course, it's Lamar. And that's why I asked this question in the scope of last night. Last night for me, even though it was a divisional game in the AFC, it spoke volumes to me. And I'm not even saying that it was so much Lamar's fault, but you got to start to wonder. All the memes, and the internet is undefeated, Cole. All the memes now is James Harden. All the memes are starting to point to players. You alluded to Julius Randle. But that's what I was worried about Lamar in particular. I had Lamar and them saying, I said to people, especially those, I got guys on my job who love the Ravens, and I said that this is the year. There's no more excuses. You have to climb that Kansas City mountain. And here they are again. They don't even get there.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought last night, even though it was a close game, I see the trajectory moving towards the Bills and what Josh Allen has been able to do. And I'm not necessarily saying that I see Baltimore, when I talk about trajectory, Baltimore doing this and the Bills doing that. But it just seems like the Bills just seem like they're more upward in terms of it looks like they have a chance to beat Kansas City. And I've said it before, and I told Chuck this before we got on the air. To me in the AFC is Kansas City, and then that second tier is Baltimore, Buffalo, Houston, Pittsburgh, maybe if Cincinnati gets off to a better start, that second tier, whoever gets out of that second tier, and that's why I thought Houston would lose in the divisional round. But those are that's the second tier. Whoever gets out of there.
I actually think you're giving Houston a little bit less credit because I actually think Houston can beat a Kansas City. I just think they just been unfair cards with not having Tank Dell and Diggs.
But that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, who's ever underneath Kansas City, those 4 or 5 teams, and I'll use this. Okay, Houston beat Buffalo. Buffalo beat Kansas City. I think in that second group, what I'm talking about with Buffalo, Baltimore, Houston, Pittsburgh, I think any one of those teams can beat Kansas City, and I think any one of those teams can beat each other.
Yeah.
But it just seems like to me, coming off last night, and even though Allen's numbers is not as high as Lamar, I mean, I think it's a 2-man race. I think Saquon stuck in there, and he should be in there. But I just think that by Buffalo beating Kansas City in the regular season, which they've done before, and seeing how well Josh Allen has been playing, it seems to me that the season is playing out the way it should be. I think the Bills should be there. I think they should be there based on the play of Josh Allen. And I think they have an underrated defense. And so I agree with you. I don't have a problem giving Lamar Jackson his 3rd MVP, but I definitely don't have a problem giving Josh his first league MVP. I think he deserves it. Just like you said before, I think he's had less. I think Buffalo gambled on him, and it's paying off. I think they deserve to be in the AFC Championship playing against the Kansas City Chiefs based on how he's played and how he's responded. And shout out to that organization. You know, I always give criticism, and I always tell you, Cole, you and Bro both, we need to start criticizing these front offices. I think they've done a great job. I think they saw something that I know I didn't see. I always thought Allen was a great playmaker, but I always was criticizing him about his turnovers. Mm-hmm. And it seems like he has figured out a way to win ball games by still having that ability to make plays without turning the ball over. I think the sky is the limit for the Buffalo Bills. I really do. I love the way they look. I think other than the Eagles, they're the 2 best teams. They look the 2 best teams to me going into the playoffs.
I agree.
So I'm with you. I think Josh Allen deserves it. I think last night, even though it's not a regular season game, was a statement. And it was a close game. I think it's a close MVP race between Allen and Jackson. But I think last night's game, and it's not Lamar's fault, but you got to start to wonder, even though it's not directly his fault, he's the quarterback of that team, and they're not getting to the Super Bowl.
Well, shout out to him because he took blame.
Yeah.
Right? He said, man, I had horrible turnovers. I dropped the ball. I got to do better. Like I was glad he took it for Andrews because that was a horrible drop in for 2-point conversion. And he took the blame off of Andrews and put it on himself.
And that's what he's supposed to do.
That is.
My whole thing to him, this is what I would say to him. And I think he's done it a little bit better this year. When I watch Mahomes play, and I'm not making this comparison because I know the league is behind Kansas City and Mahomes. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a racial component to it. Like Mahomes, they're paying him $45 million. And what they're paying him for is to go out there and win ball games that you see fit. That's why you see different shovel passes. They just let him play his game, which they should. But I think Lamar has the same freedom in Baltimore. I just think he needs to exercise it more. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about being a pocket passer. They're paying you $46 million. They're telling you win the ball game by any means. That means if you got to run and if they don't stop you, sometimes to me it seems like Lamar, I can see it and I can't see in his head, but his body language is like, oh, I have to constantly prove that I'm a pocket passer. And my whole thing to Lamar is this. Don't worry about doing that because you can do both. Do whatever you need to do. Any organization that's playing you, especially as a black quarterback, paying you $46 million a year, that means they believe in you, whether it be you be a pocket passer or whether you be a runner. And that's what I would encourage Lamar. Just do whatever you got to do to win the ball game.
Fact. So shout out to Solo Man in the comments. He posted a comment. He say, how much higher would you be if Rashee Rice was available?
I think KC would. I think KC to me is in the middle ground right now. I feel like they got a lot of young receivers, but then they got some older components on certain areas of their team that I feel are essential for them to continue to be at the top tier. Kelsey's getting older, and I think this was the first time in a few years where he'd seem human. This playoff game was a big surprise to a lot because I think he caught for over 70-something yards and had some impactful plays, but he was gone the whole entire season. I don't know if it was because of Taylor Swift or was it just because of his age or was it because of both? Then I feel like their lineman, he's so dominant. Jones, he's super dominant.
They don't give the defense a lot of credit, especially him. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But he's an older dude. He's an older guy. I think Rashee Rice, Brown, and Worthy, I think they're going to be a super fast offense, kind of looking like Miami the year that Tyreek Hill, them were killing it. I could see them looking like that and moving away from having a dominant tight end. But I don't see them dominating the AFC after this year. I actually see Buffalo on the come up. I see Texans on the come up. And then I can see, hopefully, Cincinnati gets it together because I do believe that what's his name, and I can see Denver on the come up too.
Yeah, I do too.
I love Bo Nix. I will tell you this: Bo Nix is something special about that boy.
I wouldn't go that far, but I agree with you in terms of Denver is here. Mm-hmm. I want to see Nix in the sophomore campaign. I want to see when teams start. Okay, now it's out the bag now. They know he's a good quarterback. How does he respond in his sophomore campaign? Because a lot of that has changed with C.J. Stroud. I mean, I didn't expect him. I expected him to be good, but I didn't expect that first rookie year like that. And look at his sophomore year. Now we're game planning for him. So I feel the same way about Nix. I think he's a good quarterback. We'll see what adjustments they make. But I agree with you in terms of – now here's the thing. Kansas City is getting older. But knowing the genius of Andy Reid, this is what I foresee with Kansas City. You got speed with Rice. You got speed with Worthy. Could it possibly be, Cole, and your quarterback is better, but just consider this. If they can get a multi-purpose back, or is it Pacheco? I think he's back there right now, right?
Pacheco's back. He hasn't looked the same since his injury.
He hasn't looked the same. But just imagine this. Could it be possible with all the speed that they're going to have at the wideouts and with the playmaking ability of Mahomes, and yes, Kelsey is getting older, but the speed, I see speed with Worthy and Rice. They could be something like if they have a multi-purpose back, and Kansas City is known for this, for being very, very versatile. Could they possibly on offense mirror the greatest show on turf? I foresee them looking like the Rams with the speed they got on the wideouts and the ability to, Andy Reid, he's creative.
Yeah.
And so look out. And then your quarterback is probably better than the greatest show on turf, because Warner would always, and that's all he had to do, was put the ball where he thought they were going to be. Imagine that, the speed that they got on those wideouts, and you are correct. I think they're preparing for that. I think they're preparing to move past the Kelsey campaign because he is getting older. And they haven't, in all respect to them, and we should have had Coach, shout out to Coach Jason Campbell, because I know he's a big Kansas City fan, but they haven't looked superior. They found ways to win close games all year. So, I agree with you in terms of they're not superior to the AFC anymore. Yeah. Like they're not. This year, more than any year, we've seen them find ways to win close ball games. Even Saturday, I thought the Texans dominated them on both sides of the ball statistically. It's just that you get a call here and there, and then the Texans turnovers and missed field goals. You can't do that against Kansas City. And that's going to be the key to even Buffalo beating them. They can be beat, but if you make a mistake, they don't beat themselves. And so I think Rice coming back with Worthy, they could be dangerous in terms of speed. And you put that speed in terms of what they can do with Mahomes and what Andy Reid is willing to allow, the different sets, the creativity. And I think they're going to look different. And I agree with you. I don't know if they're going to necessarily dominate the AFC, because you're right. I think the Texans are coming. I think Buffalo has as good of a shot of knocking them off on Sunday than anybody has all year. And I think Buffalo is the only team that has knocked them off. I think if Lamar can, I think the Ravens go as far as Lamar goes. I think if Lamar can recalibrate and just be Lamar, they're going to be there again. Not to mention you got Denver, like you said. And I think Cincinnati, the problem with Cincinnati is they just get off the slow starts. But listen, Cincinnati looked good. Burrow was an MVP candidate. Chase, Chase said
Burrow shows up. Burrow shows up. I would say that.
Yeah.
I feel
they just known out there for getting. They always start off 1-5, and then they come out of a hole. They still had a chance to win to get in the playoffs this year. But I agree with you. I don't think they're as superior. Well, they haven't looked as superior as they have in the past. They've looked beatable this year, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's get into our fantasy picks of the week. Chuck got some new information for us. And then after we do those fantasy picks, Cole, we'll go straight into the sponsor segment. And then we'll get into our topics, man. Take us away, Chuck.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ski, man, season 4 Debate with Base Sports Show. Man, peace to Underdog. It was real, but we moved on, man, to PrizePicks. So anybody who happen to be watching this live right now, or you watching this later, scan that QR code that you see on the screen, man, and support us with PrizePicks. With that being said, we got big college championship game tonight. And so let's do some gambling on some picks for that game right there. Matter of fact, while I pull this up, Bake, why don't you tell me who you got in that game?
Oh, man, here's the thing. Shout out to my man, Ant Dittman. We've had him on the show along with Cooper Rigo, and we've had a couple of Notre Dame guys on here, and I'm pulling for Notre Dame. To me, Notre Dame is the team that does everything right, nothing flashy. They don't have the best athletes, but they play the best brand of football, which means they don't beat themselves. They don't turn the ball over. They're well-coached, well-oiled machine. I just think Ohio State just has the better athletes.
What about you, Cole?
I honestly want Notre Dame to win as well. I just think Ohio State's going to win, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I'm going to stick with what I like over what I feel like I know is going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm riding.
That's a good way to put it. That is a good way to put it, because I think I agree with Cole. I just And you know, they represent that team that does everything right. They play right, but it's just Ohio State's athletes just look more sexier. I think Ohio State has looked the best in the tournament, but I can understand. I want Notre Dame to win. I really do.
All right, me too, mainly just because of the black coach. But anyway, all right, so with that being said, let's look at Will Howard. PrizePicks giving us more on him. I'm going to take that because I think he's good for at least one pass touchdown.
Okay. I can roll with that.
Same thing with Riley, quarterback for Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? I think he's good for at least one pass.
I think they both going to be good for that.
That's definitely, I think that's a safe pick for both.
All right. So now it'll get interesting, right? Tell me what you think about Jeremiah Love, running back for Notre Dame.
I'll give him a touchdown. I like Love.
So
I'll give him the 46 yards. I'll give him he'll get above 46.
You actually think he'll get above 46 yards?
Yeah. He'll get above 46.
Yes, you have to. You froze a little bit, Cole. Say that again.
I said I think they'll try to control the game through the running game.
Okay.
And that's Notre Dame's running back, correct?
Yeah.
I think that's easy because I think that's how they play a pound and ground game.
All right, so let's look at Oklahoma State for a minute. What do y'all think about Oklahoma State's running back?
Ohio.
Ohio State running back.
Put Oklahoma State in.
Trayvon Henderson, or their wide receiver Yamika. Yeah.
I personally would go with the running back. I would go with the running back.
Duncan for Ohio State. What position he play?
Yeah, is he on there? He played the running back, number 1, because they got both running back by committee, Henderson and Junkins. I think he's number 2 or number 1.
Okay, Henderson. Oh, okay.
Scroll down a little bit more.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, so you think he's good for a touchdown?
He's good. I think he's good for one of those. He's their multi-purpose. He's like one of those multi-purpose Marshall Faulk type backs.
Okay, and that's why and PrizePicks is giving us the Green Goblin because that's supposed to be easy money.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Give me 2 more picks. Let's see here. What you think about these tight ends?
You go with Henderson. I believe Henderson will do. I think Notre Dame's quarterback will get more than 177 yards. I don't think that's impossible.
Man, it's not impossible, but Cole, they like to pound the ball. They don't turn it over.
You're right. What about right there? Emeka, I don't know how to say his name, but 61 yards. Give him that.
You think he's gonna be higher or lower than that?
He'll get that. They got talent. They got NFL talent on that team.
That's the receiver for Ohio State, right?
Yeah, that's the receiver for Ohio State.
I'm safe with that because they high powered on offense and they versatile. I think that's an excellent pick.
Okay, and who is our receiver for Notre Dame? They don't really have no receiver. They got a tight end on here.
You got to go with the tight end.
Tight end. Either that or
I think
they just don't spread the ball out that much with the receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So you think they tight end gonna have? You know what? I'm gonna scratch the tight end. We're gonna go with our 5 then.
Okay,
confident.
I'll go with the 5.
Yeah, I think those are very solid.
All right,
Cole. If you had to predict the score, what's the score? What's the final score?
24-26.
24-26 Notre Dame.
Yeah, 24-26 or 23-26. Yeah.
Okay. Bang. All right. Shout out to PrizePicks for the gambling. Look, and if you're watching this right now, scan the QR code, tap in with us, take advantage of the same picks. Let us know how they worked out for you.
That takes us into the sponsor segment, right, Chuck?
Yes, it does. We got a bunch of new sponsors, man. Shout out to our new Most Serious partnership with Mo City Radio. We got a lot of things kicking off. So let's take a sponsorship break before we get back into the show.
Looking to crush your fitness goals? Welcome to Mo City Fitness, where we've got it all. A state-of-the-art gym, personalized meal plans, cutting-edge cryotherapy for proper recovery, massage therapy, and so much more. Located at 445 Murphy Road in Avenue E, walk-ins are always welcome, or you can give us a call at 832-539-1662. That's 832-539-1662. Tap in with us on Instagram at Mo City Fitness to schedule your free physical assessment today. Mo City Fitness, where your fitness journey begins and greatness never ends.
Hey Mo City, looking for flawless nails that turn heads? Come visit Nails by Tony and Ann, your one-stop nail salon for all things chic, classy, and colorful. Whether it's fresh mani, pedi, custom nails, art, eyelash extensions, or a perfect set of acrylics, Nails by Tony and Ann deliver precision and style every time. Right here in Mo City on 2234 across from the Wells Fargo building. We're all about keeping your nails looking fire. Walk-ins are welcome. Book your appointment today and tell them Mo City Radio sent you. Nails by Tony and Ann, where beauty meets perfection. See you soon.
Yo, rep the movement with Mo City Fashions. Copy your fresh snapback or hoodie or a tee. All representing the Mo City Podcast, Debate with Bake, or Gloves Up, Guns Down. Everything is custom made with love from our top-notch manufacturers. We got a dope range of colors and sizes to fit your vibe. Everything from blue, red, green, black, white, and more. Rep the Mo and keep it fresh, fam. Hit up moseries.com/merchandise and order today. Let's go.
All right, shout out to my man Chuck. And got to the new sponsorship, Mo City Fitness, Nails by Tony and Ann. And shout out to that, man. Chuck been working over here. We got new sponsors. That's always, ladies and gentlemen, that's always a good sign in business. You have new sponsors. So shout out to my man Chuck and welcome to the new sponsors. I'm pretty sure that we will not disappoint. You have made a great investment in MoSerious.com. All right, let's get into it. Cole. We got a lot to talk about. We are not going to get to everything today, but we got some topics that I think are worth talking about and discussing. All right, let's talk about these coaches changes, man. And some of them have rocked the NFL world, in particular the NFL coaching changes. And let's talk about the Patriots moving on from Coach Gerard Mayo. As the handpicked successor to Bill Belichick goes on a one and done. Should the Patriots have kept Gerard Mayo for a second season? Now, this is kind of a surprise, Cole, because, again, he was handpicked by Robert Kraft, according to certain reports and credible sources like ESPN. After 1 year, they're done with him, and it looks like they're going to move towards Mike Vrabel. So let's talk about this. How do you feel about this, Cole? Did this catch you by surprise? Or should we have expected this to happen to Coach Gerard Mayo?
So I look at it in three ways. One, if I look at it from one aspect is that it's a business. It's an ownership. You own something. If you don't like the results, you get rid of the person. It's just like us working on a professional day-to-day. If we're in corporate America, from one moment to the next, they could lay someone off. So I totally get that aspect of the job. If you don't like how the person's performing, you let them go. The other part was I heard, and I don't know if it's true, but I've heard from different sources that after games, there would be poker playing on the plane, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't, and that could be right. Or actually, I apologize. Because that's wrong. That's another coach that was referring to. But besides that, the issue that I do have is that I think that a lot of times as Black coaches, we get the short end of the stick. We don't get the opportunity to have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 failed seasons versus a lot of these coaches. Like like someone like Brian Daboll should be gone from New York Giants before Mayo's gone from New England Patriots.
Facts.
I think it's unfortunate that we don't get the same opportunities. I think Salah got 3 years with us, and before he got let go. I think those things are unfair. But I get it from the business aspect. It's your business. You run it how you want to run it. So I I could see it from both perspectives.
So let me ask you this, and put you in the chair of a GM. What would warrant you to fire a coach after 1 year? I mean, let's say you're running the Patriots, and Gerard Mayo has been loyal to your organization. You of course enjoyed him as a player. You clearly, you handpicked him to be the head coach, which means that you really support the guy. But in your mind, what would warrant somebody to fire somebody after 1 year? Let's just kind of go into that, because here's the thing. It's like, when I first thought about this question and I thought about posing this, it's like the only way you would get fired after 1 year is maybe, and I'm thinking about expectations. I mean, maybe they expected you, maybe they loaded the roster and they expected you to be able to take the team to the championship, or, make it to the AFC championship, or if it's baseball, the NLCS, the ALCS. But in your mind, and let's just go into what you would do, what would warrant a 1 year firing? And keep in mind this is your guy. This is a guy that came up in your culture. It's not like somebody that you brought in from outside the Patriot culture.
I think we could relate it to, I could relate to higher education. There's sometimes a director leaves, they put someone in an interim role, and then you get the position, but you don't perform, or the culture changes. There's cultural shifts. There's certain benchmarks not being met. So I think that if I was an owner and I had set certain benchmarks, I want to see certain, growth in certain areas of the organization, and those and growth wasn't happening, or there was a culture shift to where, there was lack of respect. People weren't coming on time, a losing mentality, no accountability, certain things that we might not be privy to. Those things would be things that might say, hey, we're starting to go the wrong direction. Let me go somewhere else.
But shouldn't that be a time period? I mean, 1 year. 1 year, because here's the thing. The thing about Mayo is this. He's a rookie head coach, right? I don't think he's ever been a head coach with anybody else. Well, he hasn't been in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I don't think in college either. Like, how could the Patriots say to themselves after, 6 or 7 months, he's automatically not our guy, when he's been there as a player? He's been there. I think he's been an assistant coach there, if I'm not correct. He's been around the organization.
But you know that not everyone's a leader. You may think they are, but we've been in organizations, whether you've been on teams at Binghamton Bearcats, if one of the assistant coaches became head coach, you might believe that just because they've been there 5 or 6 years, that as soon as they get the head coaching job, that that they should excel. But not everyone's built for that. And
but you can tell that after 1 year. Like, and again, Cole, here's the thing. You can't say that to me because, and no disrespect to this guy, man. I like the guy, coach. But remember when we had Silas here for the Rockets? And it was just, it was just bad. It was bad. And I think they gave him 3 years. And he had 3 years where, they took the leash off of him, because he had the whole mantra of being a player's coach. And I think he still is. I just don't think he can coach young players. I think veteran players love him because of his temperament. But I think his temperament also allowed that it doesn't work with younger players. And so we had 3 bad years down here. And I don't think it was wholeheartedly his fault, but I definitely understand, the Rockets being a pretty successful organization. Of course, we're not up there with the Celtics or a historic franchise, but we've been competitive and we won 2 championships. But the thing about it is we gave Silas 3 years. It's hard for me. And it's the same thing with the Vegas Raiders. We're going to talk about that with Antonio Pierce. It's like, I don't care how bad of a coach you are. In the NFL, what coach could make that much of an impact in 1 year, especially from these 2 franchises, the Raiders and the Patriots, who have been on a downward spiral for years now? They haven't drafted well. They have not been able to land any big time free agents that I can recall of that would, cause the team to change or change the culture of the team. It takes time to change a culture of a team.
I do agree.
You got 2 rookie head coaches, unless it was something extremely unethical going on in the background. Is 1 year enough? I mean, what expectations would you have in 1 year with a rookie head coach?
I think everyone deserves grace. I think everyone deserves another year, 2 years.
I mean, because even great coaches have bad years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like great coaches have like Larry Brown has not always had. He's had bad years. You know, he's had bad years in Philadelphia.
Let me give you an example. Emi Udoka, right? Let's say you hired Silas, and Emi Udoka was the guy you really wanted, and all of a sudden he becomes available. Do you say, hey, Silas, yeah, he had a solid first year, or even if he could have had a horrible year. You know, you have a chance at getting the guy you want. He's a free agent. You don't have to buy.
I get what you're saying. I think that's what ultimately happened. I think they wanted Mike Vrabel. But the thing about it is that it just doesn't look right. I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, it's like.
And I think it's unfair to black coaches. I think that we get the
and that's what we're forced to look at. That's what we're forced to like. And for those of us who don't want us to talk about that, here we are again, Gerard Mayo and Antonio Pierce. And they get 6 months to prove themselves. And then they're fired.
And it's not just the coach. Look at the Tennessee quarterback, Willis, and look at Lance that was at San Fran. These black quarterbacks only get one chance. And if you don't get an opportunity to play or a chance to play, you out of there.
And again, that's my point. It's like okay. Maybe here's the thing.
Think about
maybe we had like, okay, and I hate to use this example because I don't have all the information, but Mike Brown in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
Now it looks like Sacramento was on an upward trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
They've got their superstar in De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. And somewhere in there, Sacramento is not looking the way they should look.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had any significant injuries. They picked up DeMar DeRozan.
Mm-hmm.
So the expectation level, I get that. But see, Mike Brown has been there, and you could say you're not meeting the expectations that we thought you were. You started us off in the right direction, but things are going awry. And things can happen underneath. It sounds like some reports are coming from Sacramento that it was an issue between him and Fox, and then other things came. But, okay, I get that. Okay. But he even had time to, I mean, they were successful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I could understand him going, you know what? I just want to get back to San Antonio because that's probably going to be the best player in the league. So the hell with Sacramento. You know, I can understand that. But it's like Mayo and Pierce. First of all, neither team they don't look like they have anything talent-wise. No disrespect to the Patriots and Raiders, but look what they got to work with. And as an organization, neither team has drafted well. I mean, look at the Raiders. The foolishness they had with I think Gruden. I think everything that's come through that door in Vegas, there's nothing positive. So how is firing Antonio Pierce after 6 months of work? And here's the thing. Now you got to start all over again. And guess what? Whoever you bring in there, they're not going to be successful the first year there in Vegas. And I'm just using this question for Vegas. Who is your guy you going after? Okay, New England, Vrabel. He's had success as a head coach in the NFL. I can get off the Patriots for that. He's a Patriot guy, much like Mayo. But let's talk about Vegas. Who, and maybe it's going to still come out, Cole. Who were you vouching for to get rid of Antonio Pierce? And whoever you bring in there, what are they going to do with that team? There's nothing on that team.
And I think the sad part, though, is that what happens to a lot of black coaches, too, is that we get into the league by taking the most undesirable jobs. Instead of getting a job that's desirable, like the Dallas Cowboys, or a job where there ain't that much of a rebuild, or getting a job like, let's say,
hold on. And that's a great point. I just want to stop you right there. I'm going to let you keep going. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Chuck just put this on the screen. Where should McCarthy go? I understand even though I think Jerry is the problem in Dallas, I understand why Dallas would not renew his contract. Listen, we have stacked your team on both sides. Now, there's some things that the Cowboys could have done better, but if you look at the Cowboys, and that's what I'm saying, McCarthy had time to make things happen. Mm-hmm. The time frame was how many years? 3, 4, 5 years, and they didn't do anything. I understand that. I understand him being out, even though I don't think he's the problem in Dallas. I can understand Jerry Jones saying, you take this money. If you don't, it appears that they couldn't agree on a contract. But I can understand why McCarthy would be out. He's had a time period to prove himself. He has not done it according to their expectation. But what could have Antonio Pierce done in Vegas? Like, what is out there in terms of talent other than the tight end? And they got a good defense. Like, I don't get Vegas. Okay, all right, New England. I'll get off New England. Vrabel is your guy, and for whatever reason, Mayo. Maybe there was a part of the plan, like you said. Maybe their guy came available, and I understand that. I still think it's a raw deal for Mayo, but Mike Vrabel has a resume as a head coach. Okay, but what are they going to do in Vegas? Why would you get rid of? Because now that you get rid of Antonio Pierce, you got to get rid of a whole coaching staff. Did you really give him anything for him to be more successful than what he was this year? No. So why not give him time to try to figure it out? Like McCarthy, if he doesn't do it in 3 years, boom. I just don't get that. And then people always want to say, well, why do you guys have to talk about race? Well, it looks like that. The guy didn't get nothing as far as talent. And even if he did, what was he going to do with that team, Cole?
You're right.
What was he going to do with that team? He could have coached like Belichick. He could have coached like Steve Watt. What were they going to do with that team in Vegas? And who are you going to bring in there as a coach that's going to help a team that probably has the worst talent in the league? I just don't get these organizations at times. 1 year is like, all right, hey man, we went to the Super Bowl, and the next year we had fights on the team, we had scandals, and okay, all right, it's out of control, but it's just weird to me. Where now? With that being said, and I know what you're going to say, Cowboys vacancy. Do we agree that McCarthy probably was going to be out? My question to you, I got two questions.
I believe it was time.
Yeah. I have two questions, rather. Where should McCarthy go, and who should be the next head coach for the Dallas Cowboys?
I think McCarthy, if I was him, the team that I would try to go to is somewhere like Jacksonville. That's not too far off. I still think what's his name's career could be salvageable, the quarterback. I think they have decent enough players on offense. And I think they're in a division where it's winnable. I don't think the Colts, Jacksonville, and Texans and everybody are too far apart. I think that'd be an attractive place for him. I think Chicago can be an attractive place because I think they have the talent.
They just got their coach this afternoon, right before we went on the air. Yeah.
Okay. Who did they choose? Ben Johnson?
Ben Johnson, yeah.
But I think there's pieces there that would have been good for him. But I would probably say Jacksonville, and even the Saints to an extent, because you got Chris Carr, even though I think he's a little overrated as a quarterback, but I still think they got veteran pieces that right.
Not that Derek Carr.
Derek Carr, yeah. I think they could be all right. But Jacksonville to me would be ideal for him.
Now that's the thing. And I don't understand this. I don't know what McCarthy is as a coach. And what I mean by that is, I guess the most successful campaign we have from him is Green Bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, does a lot of that go to him, or does that go to a prime Aaron Rodgers?
I think he was there at a time where it was that organization came off of Favre, and they still had steady influx of competent veterans.
There you
good
go.
enough.
They did a good job of succeeding Favre with Rodgers. Exactly. I have to give that to the GM. I mean, they whoever they did their homework. Much like probably like Kansas City with Mahomes. Somebody in that organization knew what they were doing. I just don't know what Mike McCarthy is. I think Jacksonville is a good place. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe based on a little bit of information that we have from Green Bay, maybe you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I agree with you. I think Lawrence still has a chance to be something in this league just based on the natural things that he brings to the team. So maybe that's what it is. We know one thing for sure. Mike McCarthy was successful, and this sounds crazy because I guess anybody would be, but we know he was successful with a top quarterback. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's what it is in Jacksonville. Maybe they need that. Maybe they need somebody to kind of rally Trevor Lawrence. Probably won't be the same like a Aaron Rodgers, but maybe that's what it is. Maybe he needs to go somewhere that's probably excellent, Jacksonville. I just don't know what he is as a coach. I don't think and it's hard to coach in Dallas, man. You know, how much influence does he have in terms of getting players there because of the GM situation?
You know how I view him as a coach like a Tom Thibodeau. He's a coach that gets you to the playoffs but won't get you a championship. And I think there's coaches out there that are good enough to coach teams to create a winning culture, but not a championship culture, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I got you. That's how I felt about Bill O'Brien here with the Texans. I didn't think he was a bad coach. I thought he did his job from getting us from not being contenders to winning the division and getting to the divisional round of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But is he the guy to take us to the next level? No. Did he deserve to be a GM? No, he didn't earn that. They were trying to be the Patriots South. But man, and then who should be the head coach for the Cowboys? Now, the media popular thing is Deion, but if I'm Deion, I'm not going.
Yeah, I want Deion to stay in college, at least for a couple more years.
I mean, I could understand if one of his kids went there as much as he invests in his kids, but it's just who can be successful under Jerry Jones? You know, because here's the thing. It's like this. It's like when you have a GM that's that involved with everything, and they're the owner. It's like me and you could sit down and say, hey, here's our system as head coaches, assistant coaches. Here's how we're going to build this. And we got our eyes. We're going to draft this guy. And then somebody like Jones comes in the room and says, no, I want this guy. Well, that wasn't a part of our system, but we got to take this guy to make it work. It seems like that's the situation in Dallas. I don't know, man. I don't know who would, unless you're a young head coach who's trying to get on. Yeah, coming out of college, I mean, and you're a coordinator trying to get your first head coaching job. Mm-hmm. I don't know who goes down there. I mean, you go down there. Here's the thing: you're gonna be paid. In all respect to Jerry, you're gonna have players. Now, it might not be the players that you want for your system, and you probably need to come in there with the mindset of Jerry. What kind of system do you want us to run?
He might not pay him until game 1 of the season.
Well, I mean, yeah. That's Jerry Jones, you know. But you probably need to get you a young head coach that's just trying to build a resume to go down there. And then the thing about it is if you get players, you give that young head coach credit. If they don't win, well, you know, it's Jerry's fault. You know, I don't know, man. All right, let's get to it. Let's stick with coaches, Cole. Who do you think should be the NFL Coach of the Year this year? Who's done the best job for what they have as an organization? I'll let you go first, and then I'll go next.
The best job for what they have as an organization. 2 coaches come to mind to the transformation that they had. I think Sean Payton with Denver, for them to be that bad and to transition and turn the organization around is one. And I love what's his name in Minnesota did with losing their first round draft pick, taking Darnold, getting rid of Cousins, and becoming the second or third best record in all the NFL with only 2 or 3 losses during the regular season.
3 losses. They did a great job in Minnesota.
I have to say those 2, but I do love Buffalo's head coach for for him keeping the ship together and winning the division and now going to the AFC Championship. So those would be my 3 votes, but I'll give it to Sean Payton. Sean Payton turned that organization. Denver was looking real bad for a couple of years, man. He turned that organization around.
Those are 3 good ones, but I and I'm so glad you didn't take mine. I just think what Washington is doing is incredible.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I'm going to agree with you on this one.
Yeah, I just think in the hindsight of everything, I think Denver and I think the guys that you name are definitely great candidates. I just think Washington has been a train wreck. And the question is this, too, because you brought up some good points about Peyton. You brought up some good points about Buffalo's coach, McDermott. And I was going to interrupt you, but your takes were so hot, I couldn't stop you because you made some great points. But here's the thing. Even with Denver, even with Buffalo, and I'm saying more of this in terms of Buffalo, because when you talk about the coach of the year, you got to narrow it down to what's going on in the field. I think Buffalo, McDermott is definitely a coach of the year candidate, but some of that goes to the front office, kind of navigating and I'm not saying the head coach doesn't have any input on that, but kind of navigating the direction of the team. I think Buffalo has done a good job in terms of we are going with Josh Allen. Despite with nobody, that's the in-house thing. And the coach could be involved in that. And I do think McDermott he should be a candidate for coach of the year. Mm-hmm. But when I look at Washington, that's Dan Quinn, right?
Yeah.
When I look at Washington, I could give the front office a lot of credit, but for whatever he's been able to do with that team, and maybe it's empowering that young quarterback, who I think will win Offensive Rookie of the Year. If you look at where they were, if you look at their attitude on the field, even in their belief in that quarterback, because they believe in that young kid. Mm-hmm. Dan Quinn has done a hell of a job on the field for the Commanders. I think almost every game this year. Think about the Commanders last year and the year before. You could see them coming, but they still are not. They were still a train wreck. But if you think about this year, almost every game they played, Cole, they've had a chance to win that game. Mm-hmm. I don't remember them being blown out that many times. They may have been 1 or 2 games where they dropped, but and think about that in retrospect of the NFC East. Now, the Giants are out. They've been terrible. Mm-hmm. But the Cowboys start off, they were still competitive, even though they weren't going to make the playoffs. But the Eagles and the Commanders, think about that. That is your NFC Championship, correct?
Yep.
NFC East teams. And think about what the Commanders have been. Think about their attitude. I have the Eagles looking the best going into the playoffs, but this is a hell of a game next week. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a competitive game.
Easy say that the Commanders have the better quarterback.
Very, very, very arguable point. And I love Hurts. Mm-hmm. I think Philly is the most complete team. I think Philly they've been the best team to me going into the playoffs. But this is a healthy NFC East matchup in the playoffs.
It's hard to beat a team 3 times.
Exactly. So, and just think about how Washington has looked on the field.
Now, I think against each other. They might be 1.
Exactly. So I think it should be Dan Quinn. I think he's done a tremendous job on the field. I think their front office, I think they should be I think those guys should be up for executives of the year, whether it be Magic Johnson or whoever's in that front office making a big splash. They've done a great job. Yeah, I think the kid should be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think it's hands down. That's just my pick. All right.
I agree. I'm with you on that. I changed my pick to match yours. I think about that.
Yeah, I think it has to be. I'm voting for the Commanders. I think Dan Quinn has just done a tremendous job with that organization. All right, let's talk about some more current topics, and then we'll get down to the association. All right, this year, Cole, true or false? Is Saquon Barkley better than Derrick Henry? This is a debate, ain't it?
No, he's better than Derrick Henry.
You think so?
I think he's better than Derrick Henry. He's more talented than Derrick Henry as far as natural, gifted, God-given ability. Derrick Henry has had the better career because he's been less injured. He's shown up every single year in, year out. But those are two different things we're asking. One is more gifted, talented. The other one has a better career. It's kind of it's. If you ask me who I would take,
okay, let's frame it like that then.
I would probably take Henry because I just love his body of work. Even when he didn't have a quarterback, he was carrying teams. I think it's tough though. You can just toss it up, but I'll go with Henry out of just being a bigger Henry fan. But I see the talent of Saquon that outside of Barry Sanders and Bo Jackson, I don't think anyone has been more gifted than Barkley.
Who would you build your team around? Now, are you saying that if you're the GM and you're starting a team, and when you talk about starting a team, in particular with superstars, you're talking about who do we build this team around as far as attitude and ability? Now, I'm hearing you say Saquon is more talented. I somewhat agree with that.
I build it around Henry because I feel like his body is built to last.
Okay.
That makes sense. I feel like his body can endure more.
So you building yours around availability.
Around availability.
I get that.
Feel like I'll be more like if I've never saw either's career, I feel like Henry's game transcends time. Barkley's game is like, hey, when I can't jump as much anymore, when I'm not, I don't know if I'm that good anymore.
So you're saying, and I think you exactly what you said before. Barkley has the talent. He has the more God-given natural ability. But if you're building your team, who is available, and that could be to all-season training. We know how hard Derrick Henry works on his body. Mm-hmm. You're going with Derrick Henry.
Yep.
That's a tough one, man, because you make a valid point. In terms of debate, I'll say this. It's even unfair. I almost didn't put this on here because I think Henry has had he's been there longer, so his body of work is longer, more extensive. Man, but here's the thing. I think Barkley's more multi-purpose versus Henry is just and I'm not saying just to kind of down what he's doing, but it's a different skill set. Mm-hmm. I think Barkley is more of a Marshall Faulk, more of a multi-purpose back versus Henry is a horse. Yeah, Henry is a horse that you can just ride. I mean, I'm kind of leaning your way because when I think about what he did in Tennessee, they had nothing over there. Mm-hmm. And he was getting 1,000-yard seasons over there. And it's unfair, but if I put Barkley in that same situation, maybe the same way in terms of if I was to put him in Tennessee, I don't think he does what Henry does. But that's not Barkley's fault. I think Barkley's skill set is to be used as a multi-purpose back.
I agree.
So I agree with you. I think Barkley is more well-rounded, but I think Henry is better at what he does. In terms of what he does, running hard, staying healthy. I think Barkley, you get a number of things. I think, here's the thing. If I can sum it up, I think Barkley does a lot of things good. And I think what Derrick Henry does, even though it's fewer, he does great.
Great. I agree.
Does that make sense?
I think it makes 100%.
He does a lot of things good. I think he does a lot of things good. I think he checks a lot of boxes, but I think the few things that Derrick Henry does, I think he does great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he does great. All right, let's get into a little bit of let's get a quarterback debate going. Actually, let's ask this question. Because you know this question is going to come up. And I don't even know if it's fair. Is Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, is he overrated? Because here's the thing. You think he's overrated?
I don't think he's overrated. I think the only thing the Detroit Lions is missing is a quarterback who has a little bit more mobility and a little bit more offer. Because I think the NFL is transcending to a league where you just can't have quarterbacks that are just stand still. They got to have a little bit of mobility, offer a little bit more to open up your offense more. And I think Jared Goff is a playoff quarterback, like we got in the conversation earlier. There's people that get you to playoffs, you'll win, but they just don't get you over the hump. And I believe that that's the issue with Jared Goff, is that I believe that he'll get you to playoffs, won't get you over the hump. Now, if you throw a better quarterback on that team, I don't think anyone beats Detroit.
Okay, let's play a little bit of a game then. You put a better quarterback over there. Let's say who's available free agent wise. Let me ask you, does it work if you send Rodgers over there?
No, but Cousins, yes.
It's interesting you say Cousins.
I think Cousins, he might throw interceptions here and there, but I think he is a really good quarterback. Like he's that quarterback that frustrates you though.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I may can agree with you on this in terms of this. It can work with Cousins in Detroit because they have everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a stout defense. I think, and a lot of it too, while they were unsuccessful, their defense was hurt. Hutchinson was out.
They lost a lot of pieces.
So do you think if everything is there, because they got a nice car, they got a nice Ferrari.
Yeah. They just need a new driver.
So you think Cousins, with his he has some athletic ability because of the way the team is built, he gives them a better shot.
I think that he would shine a little more. I think Dak Prescott would shine over there a little bit more.
To your point, I get what you're saying. You don't need a great quarterback to go over there.
Exactly. You just need a little bit more arm talent, a little bit more mobility, because I think play action is different with Goff and play action is different with Cousins. I'm not saying Cousins is a lot faster, but watching him move in Minnesota, watching him move in Atlanta when he was playing good in Atlanta, and he's coming off an ACL in Atlanta, so I give him a little bit of a break, but he was putting up numbers with Jefferson and everybody else. Now you put him with St. Brown and you put him with Jameson and you put him with those two amazing running backs and an amazing tight end and that defense. I personally think
I guess all you do need over there is a game manager, right?
Yeah, is a game manager, but I think he's a little bit above a game, and he's better than Rodgers right now.
If Minnesota lets go Sam Darnold, right? Because I've been hearing that kind of noise to go with the young guy they got. Do you think that a guy like Darnold could make that move over to Detroit?
Darnold needs perfect protection.
I think he could, because here's the thing. I think he could. I think he could because
I think anyone can win there. I just saying winning a championship. Darnold can take them to the playoffs. Will he win?
But you don't think, okay, even if you compare that, like they went 14-3 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Detroit has a little bit more. I mean, both teams are good.
Yeah, both teams are good.
You know what I'm saying? Do you think that Darnold does the same thing if he goes to Detroit?
I think they win in the same position. I would personally trust Cousins getting. I would trust Cousins and Dak Prescott getting to the Super Bowl with Detroit more than I would trust Darnold.
That's fair. I actually like Dak going over there. I like that. I'm not so sure about Cousins, but I understand where you're coming from with Cousins. So you think it's the quarterback situation in Detroit?
I think that's what's holding him back. I think they don't have versatility. He's if you blitz him, if you keep him, like he needs time for him to produce. He can't do that off script stuff. That off script stuff, I think, is what they're missing when it comes to like turning the corner.
All right, let me ask you this then, because it's going to say a lot. So you don't think it's Dan Campbell? You think they need to change their quarterback? I think there's some validity to that statement. I also think their defense was hurt this year. Mm-hmm. I think their offense could do anything. I just think the defense they were hobbling this year. If you take Justin Fields and put him over there, what does that team look like? Because he's mobile. He can throw it. He's unproven, but he has the talent. I mean, I think he has more talent than Goff. I think that's not a bad statement to make.
He holds it too long. Goff is more of a quarterback.
But I mean, Fields. But again, that's a key to a Ferrari.
He can win games and go to the playoffs with them. I don't think he
hasn't proven yet.
I think Trevor Lawrence can turn the corner with them, because I think the way they dial up plays will also make it easier for Trevor Lawrence, and having that defense for some of those mistakes that Trevor Lawrence can have.
Okay. I get that. I mean, it's valid. I
think
I don't like Cousins, but I understand what you're saying, because here's the thing. As much as I don't like Cousins, he did the same thing that Darnold did in Minnesota when he was in there. They won the division and they get to the second round of the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's fair. I don't know if Cousins can get them to the Super Bowl, but I'm pretty sure with that style team, they can get to the NFC Championship with Cousins.
No, I definitely think that.
So we don't think it's Campbell. Okay. All right. I got to ask this question, then we'll move on to the association. Is it safe to say now, because I think Lamar is up there now. Lamar just hit a record. I'm talking about Lamar Jackson, right? Mm-hmm. Can you, and we're biased, Cole, me, you, and Chuck, because of the era that we grew up in, I think Lamar Jackson just became the first player in NFL history with over 4,000 yards passing and 800 yards rushing in a single season. Is he better than Vic? Let's take prime Vic. It may be unfair because we don't know if we have a prime Lamar now, but I think
what it is if you could mix Vic's career, I would take Vic over him if you could mix it, because I think.
Now, when you say mix, explain that to the audience.
Like Philly and Atlanta.
Philadelphia Vic, I felt, learned how to pass. I felt like Atlanta Vic was athleticism, speed, stuff that the NFL wasn't ready for. But when I saw him come to Philly in that year that he took over, I saw a different version of him. And if you could mix those two together, I think he would be a better player than Jackson. But I think Jackson has he's a better player.
So you think Lamar is a better player? What do you think from Lamar makes him a better player than Vic?
I think he's a better passer.
Ooh, right now. You think he's a better passer than Vic? Even this version of Lamar, let's say this version of Lamar versus that version of a more patient pocket passer, a more complete player in Philadelphia, Vic. You think that this version of Lamar is better than Vic in Philadelphia?
I think so. Wow. I think so. Because it's the way Lamar does it too.
It's a hard debate.
I mean, because I almost feel like this version of Lamar is that mixed version of Vic that we're talking about with the athleticism and the passing. Other than this game yesterday where he threw the picks, like he hadn't had 2 picks all season. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so he had been very accurate with his throws. And so I'm, I usually lean on a chip to make these decisions.
Yeah, that's why I put it here, because neither one of them got it. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I actually think you could.
I look with Lamar on the MVPs. If I'm like what the people say,
you're right. But here's the thing: to Cole's point, and you're right, Chuck. But to Cole's point is this, and that's an excellent point by Cole. The NFL just wasn't ready for Vic.
They wasn't.
So they wasn't prepared. He should have got an NFL MVP because, I mean, you think about Atlanta, he was the scariest thing on 3rd and 5 that defenses had ever seen. And, I mean, he was a video game in Atlanta. And to Cole's point, I don't even think he really knew how to play yet. But he was such a threat. And I think what Vic... If you take Vic out of that era and put in this era, I think he gets league MVPs. I just think that the league didn't know how to grade that. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's something we seeing, and it's like we can't give him the NFL MVP because we're still stuck in the era of the pocket passer. You know what I'm saying? And they kept trying to say, well, this is why he didn't get to the Super Bowl, because he didn't stay in the pocket. But it was just something that the NFL and everybody else couldn't deal with, and they didn't want to deal with it. They just wanted to stick with that genre. Oh, he's just a black athletic quarterback. But in hindsight, he was doing what Lamar is doing. Mm-hmm. It's just more celebrated now. So Vic And that's a great point by Cole. That's why I bring this up. Vic kind of opened the door for Lamar for this to be acceptable. You see what I'm saying? Because I don't know, man. It's tough because let me tell you something. I'm always, and I've said this, I said this when we had the Notre Dame boys on. It's like when I seen him, I didn't think Vic could. I was like Cole, I doubted his arm. But when I saw him that game, that Monday night game, when the Eagles were playing, and he threw the ball and it went out of the screen, and I said it on this podcast. I didn't know he had that kind of arm talent. And just imagine this, guys. What if he didn't go out with the dog scandal? The trajectory that the Falcons were headed.
Yeah, if he ain't go,
they were just starting
to go sit in jail for a couple
exactly,
years.
And they were starting to. They derailed him right at his prime. He was going into his prime. And just imagine if he didn't, if he would have kept going on the field. Now, off the field, we know there was some other issues going on, but just imagine what he would have been if he would have never left Atlanta.
He was the LeBron of football at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tough debate, man. I don't know because I don't know, man. And I'm biased because, again, I'm from that era. I remember watching Michael Vick like they still trying to pump Peyton. They still trying to pump Brady because they winning. But this guy, it was just a nightmare for defensive coordinators. I mean, if you had a third, you were hoping to get the Falcons in a long 3rd and 21 but even then it was just like you had to put a spy on them. I mean, this is one of the first times, they did it with Cunningham and all that, but even with Cunningham, he didn't have the wheels that Vic had. It was just unbelievable. And I just don't think the NFL was ready for it. And it was like, I think someone were hoping that he lost because it was like, how are we going to deal with this? You think about this with Michael Vick. There was a time with the Falcons that we thought that a quarterback was the fastest person in the NFL. Yeah. Like, think about that. In conventional times, it was a cornerback, Darryl Green, or a running back, or Deion Sanders. Think about Vic. In that time, he was considered the fastest, a quarterback. He was the fastest player in the NFL. Now, today's, if we say Lamar is one of the fastest, oh, yeah, well, it's welcomed.
Mm-hmm. He made something extraordinary just look ordinary.
Exactly. I don't know, man. We got to get more people to debate this. I get what y'all both saying. It's a tough debate. All right, let's take one more question in NFL, and then we'll move on. We'll save these topics for another time. All right. Who do y'all think is the worst franchise in NFL history right now? Well, just period. Who is the worst franchise, period, in the NFL history?
I think it's the Jets. And I say it's the Jets because you're in a media market that's number 1 in the world. I think it should be a haven to where free agents and people want to come to because of what the community can offer you off the field to make money and endorsements and build your brand and everything else like that. And we have owners that make a maximum amount of money when it comes to sports. And just we're underachievers. I have to say the Jets is the worst in NFL history.
That might not be bad. Because the Jets have never been to a Super Bowl, right? There's only a few teams that never did, and the Texans, and it's not fair to the Texans because they're new. Mm-hmm. But is there anybody that could have been worse than the Jets for a long period of time? I was going to say the Cardinals, but the Cardinals been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Falcons, but they've been to the Super Bowl. The Buccaneers, they won Super Bowls.
Even if it was because they may have been to one Super Bowl, the Jets, and I'm looking that up. But even so, they're still underachievers to me. I feel like for you to be in a big market, I feel like any big market team should never have to struggle. Especially big market teams are usually teams that have been around the leagues longer, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever. Big market teams have been in the league longer. So I think that you should be able to establish a foundation, a winning culture, or whatever. And just the fact that we have the longest streak, I think, of all professional sports of not even going to the playoffs right now, it's a damn shame.
You might be right because
the Cleveland Browns,
but see,
the
Cleveland,
Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are the 4 teams that haven't been to the Super Bowl.
The Jets been to the Super Bowl?
One time, I want to say it was.
Who was name those teams again? Detroit,
Cleveland Browns, Detroit.
Joe Namath in the Super Bowl. Joe Namath.
Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars.
So then, Cole, they can't be. I can't put the Texans and Jaguars because they're fairly new teams to me. But the Jacksonville has had a good run in the playoffs with Fred Taylor and them. I think they didn't get to the Super Bowl.
It's probably Cleveland.
Probably is. But see, but the thing about Cleveland is this, and see, there's other categories. That's why I asked this question because, okay, what Chuck said is very significant. Who's never been to the Super Bowl, but who's had the least amount of Hall of Fame players too, because that speaks to your organization. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Jets are probably more well-rounded than that because Cleveland has had players, Bernie Kosar, Jamal Anderson. You know,
let's say Hall of Fame players that were homegrown, because I feel like.
Well, not even that. It's just on your team. Let's just make it simple because that requires extensive research. But it's like Cleveland has had players. Ernest Biner. I mean, they ain't had much, but they've had players. Metcalf. You know, I don't consider Houston and Jacksonville because they still fairly like Jacksonville probably came in 99 or something like that. Houston came in 2000. So I don't really, but that leaves us with Detroit, Cleveland, and the Jets. That's for the Super Bowls, but
the least amount of Hall of Famers based off of, so you have Jaguars, Houston Texans to Carolina Panthers for Cincinnati.
Those are new teams.
So it'd be Cincinnati. Cincinnati would be the longest team.
But they've been to Cincinnati. They've had a good streak lately, and they've been to the Super Bowl with old Ickey Woods and Boomer Esiason. They were in contention at one time. They've been to the Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. You see what I'm saying? It's probably Detroit, Cleveland, and the Jets. Think about this. I would say probably Detroit.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Detroit.
Because they have a season
now finally got good.
And then they had a season where they didn't win a game.
Yeah, it was over. Yeah, they had an over season.
It might be Detroit. And I hate to say that because Barry Sanders is my favorite running back of all time, but it might be Detroit, Cole.
Playoffs with Barry. They were just running into either Favre or they were running into the Dallas Cowboys.
That's true, but again, they probably have the least amount, I'm going out on a limb saying this, of Hall of Famers. They've never been to a Super Bowl. They've had a season where they did not win a game, Cole. Think about that. Like they had a season where they went 0-15 or something like that? And even on that team, they had arguably one of the best receivers of all time in Megatron. I think Megatron had a great season that year as well. It might be Detroit, man. Because Cleveland, this is what I remember about Cleveland, and Chuck can remember this. In those days of the Oilers, they were hard on us in the 90s. They would always give us a tough game, and they would go to the playoffs. Never been to a Super Bowl, but they were rough in the 90s. Like, we had to go through them in the playoffs.
Yeah,
the Browns was tough for us. Bernie Kosar, Ernest Biner, they had players over there. So Cleveland wasn't always bad. It might be Detroit. Because even with y'all, Cole, Joe Namath was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And y'all had some years with Boomer Esiason. Y'all had some years with Rex Ryan, that AFC championship game.
Yeah.
It might be Detroit, man. Just because they never been, and they've been good recently. They never been to the Super Bowl. They don't have a lot of players that you could say could go to the Hall of Fame. I mean, not a lot of players that we know. And they've had a season, bro, where they didn't win a game. Like, I mean, even all bad franchise, you gonna have good teams every now and then. Mm-hmm. Like the Jets have been competitive. It's just the expectations because they are in a big market. To your point, Cole, but they have been competitive with the Rex Ryan teams.
Yep.
The Bart Scotts and all them, they've been competitive. Thomas Jones.
The resources, I feel like for the resources that you're giving, though.
Right.
I expect
expectation. Right.
Is not to be able to get certain.
Yeah, it's no reason why you can't get players to come to New York. Yeah. No, that's a good point, man. I think it's Detroit, though, man. You don't win a game. Like the Texans have had Texans have 2 games. Detroit did not win a game, and they ain't been to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They got close, but I'd say Detroit. That's a good topic, man. All right, let's get to the association. My first question, and I go back to the other questions. Chuck put this on the promo, and good job, Chuck, for putting this on the promo. But it is right now, is SGA the MVP of the league? Oh, there's a long pause. And
It's tough.
Who's playing better than him then? I'll put it like that. They arguably, other than Cleveland, are the best team in the NBA. And that may not have any bearing as far as it's either MVP right now.
Shea Gillis is definitely the MVP, and I think it's his to lose. It's his to lose. Even if Cleveland has the better record, I still wouldn't give it to Donovan Mitchell because I feel like it's a team effort versus Shea. I feel like you lost Hartstein for part of the season, you lost Shep for part of the season. There's other people that have been injured, and you still maintain the number 1 record. I would say Shea Gillis is the MVP.
Okay, so we agree that nobody's playing better than him, but who's playing just as good as him right now?
I don't think anyone is.
Sengun.
Oh, come on, Chuck, man.
I think he could be honorable mention for most improved, stuff like that.
To be honest with you, to Chuck's point, I think Sengun should go to the All-Star game.
I think him and Green can.
Yeah, I think both of them can go to the All-Star game.
Balling right now.
Yeah,
too.
well, and then they number 2, right?
Yes, sir.
I think they can go to the All-Star game, but again, is there anybody playing? There are other guys playing maybe just as good but is there anybody playing better than him?
I don't think anyone's playing better than him. I don't even think anyone's playing just as good. And that's my honest opinion. I don't even think Edwards is shooting too many threes.
Yeah.
And I think he needs to go to the rack a little bit more.
I agree 100%.
Durant, all of them is overrated right now. I think Curry is solid, but Curry's not. They're not winning the way they're winning. I think Tatum is playing good, but he's not playing better than SGA. I think Luka never plays no defense anyway, so I'm not a fan.
All right, so did Kia, who was gonna do the MVP joint? Here's their top 5. They got Joker from Denver at number 1.
Well, he'll always be in the conversation.
They got Jason Tatum from Boston at number 2. They got AD from the Lakers at number 3. Giannis from Milwaukee at number 4.
Giannis is playing well.
Giannis is the only person.
They got SGA at number 5.
Probably Giannis is be the only thing that, but I think Giannis is playing just as good. I don't think he's playing better though than SGA.
So I think Joker, because they're not having the greatest season, why I wouldn't give Joker it this season.
But I mean, he's gonna always be there.
Joker triple double.
He gonna always be there. I mean it's kind of like he's gonna always be in the MVP. It's like, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think that's why I asked the question. Is there anybody? I think the Joker is playing just as good as SGA, but I don't think he's playing better than SGA.
Mm-hmm.
Joker's gonna always be there because his skill set. He's gonna be, you know what I'm saying? I think the only other player that's playing just as good as him and maybe, Joker number wise, yes, but I think Giannis has been good this year.
Giannis has been good, and Wemby's been coming on lately.
Yeah, he's been coming on.
But I don't think anyone. I think SGA is going to win it, hands down. I think, especially because they have the best record in the NBA as well, too. So
maybe that's what puts him up.
Oh no, I didn't realize Joker was averaging a triple double.
I did. I just.
It's become normalized like Lamar Jackson. I feel like those two.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that. He's gonna always be in the conversation. You can like every year you could give him the MVP.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I just think for the separator is that SGA, the way Oklahoma City is looking, I think that's what it is. And it's not even that it's Joker's fault that Denver is not up there with them. But I just think I thought SGA should have got the MVP last year. But you can always give it to Joker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I think Joker's going to always be on the MVP list, but I think whether or not he gets it will be the success of the Denver Nuggets, if that makes sense. His numbers are going to always be there, you know, like it ain't no big deal in terms of that. All right, I got a question kind of off the topic. Well, off the promo, rather. Chris Paul or John Stockton? Paul just passed Jason Kidd for number 2 on the NBA all-time assist list. Is he better than John Stockton, Cole? Chuck?
Is Chris Paul better than Stockton?
Now, just remember, and this is coming off the back end of the.
No.
He just passed Jason Kidd for the number 2 spot in the NBA all-time assist.
No.
You don't think he's better than Stockton?
I think he's better than Stockton or Jason Kidd.
So you don't think he's better than John Stockton? Period.
I don't think he's better than John Stockton. I think John Stockton took his team to 2 championships. That's one. In an era where there was Hakeem, Duncan, freaking even KG, Shaq, and all of them at certain points in his career. Steve Nash, even for a small portion. KJ, he played against some elites. He was the number 1 leader in assists and steals for years on years on years, and he showed up. Is he a better scorer than Chris Paul? Probably not. Can he score, though? Yes, he can.
All right, let me play devil's advocate to that, though.
Yeah. CP3 definitely has more. CP3 got 6 steals leaders. Stockton got 2.
He played in the era of Jordan, though.
Okay, but that's what I want to debate you on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's switch eras. If you put Chris Paul on that team with Karl Malone in the 90s, does he do the same or better than what John Stockton is?
He scores it better, but everything else to me is the same.
Okay. Flip-flop. You take John Stockton, put him in this era. Does he do the same thing he did?
I think he may do better because I feel like he played against smarter, better players. I think this era, there's a lot of dumb basketball IQ dudes. And so
right.
The reason why I think that even though the older players may not be as athletic, I think they just know how to score it and how to do other things to make the team better and make themselves better in this era. Because this is an era where people come down on a fast break 3-on-1, pull up for a 3 instead of taking the short layup. Like there's certain things that I just feel like older school players are better. I also think they're more skilled. I think they're better shooters than the players today. I think the players today shoot with more volume and shoot with more deeper out, but they're not consistent at it.
I mean, you make a good point. Just because I'm biased to that era, it was a tougher era. It's just that, man,
Stockton was horrible on defense.
You think so?
Defense. He was horrible on defense.
He got steals because he played the lanes, but like one-on-one, he got cooked. I don't care who was on him. You know what I'm saying? And to put him in today's league, fam. No, bro, he would be just like any of these other white point guards, great shooter.
Nah, that's like saying even Mark Price. Like I feel like those
Mark Price in today's NBA,
Mark Price would eat every one of these point guards out here, yo.
Bro,
Mark Price
would be on clamps, bro. He would be getting clamped up by the likes of the Kyries and the world and the Brunsons of the world. They would take their lunch. Man.
Mark Price had more offensive moves than Luka. Mark Price would eat out here, yo.
He tripping, man.
Nah, y'all gotta go back and watch some Mark Price.
Rose and Luka, come on, dude. Now Luka don't play defense, but come on, man. He's an offensive juggernaut, man. Come on now.
Luka got 2 moves. He's just really good at these 2 moves. Yo, it was like having a sky hook. That step back is the sky hook of this generation. Yo, it's just unstoppable. But Luka don't play no defense. Luka
all defensive teams. Stockton got 0.
And it's hard, and that's why I'm thinking.
You have Jordan.
It's hard, Cole, because like Chris Paul accomplished so much more on an individual level. Like
he haven't even went to the finals once.
I know, but that's why I said on the individual level. You're right. I think as a team, John Stockton is better. I mean, they lost to Jordan, him and Karl Malone. You know, that was it. They defeated. Like the thing about the case for Stockton is this: in that era, they were able to dethrone. And I hate to say this, but Akeem, Robinson,
Gary Payton,
right, and they did it. They didn't necessarily have a center in Utah, so that goes in John Stockton's favor in terms. I mean, Hornacek doesn't get a lot of credit that I think he deserves, but like they only lost to Michael Jordan, dude. Like they and even Mike said it was difficult to go. It was difficult to win. I mean, Karl Malone is the first person I've seen that kind of smacked Barkley. Barkley was out of shape. He was down here in Houston, but it was kind of like, it was very arguable that he was the better forward on Dream Team 1. You know, so in that respect, I understand where you're coming from, Cole, in terms of Stockton. Like, there was a time where nobody could beat them. Even in the regular season, they would beat Chicago. They beat us. After we had our championship runs, they housed the Western. They dethroned us. They dethroned us when we had Elijah One, Pippen, and Barkley. We were set to go to the finals, and Stockton was the one that hit the shot. So they were dominant, and a lot of that goes to John Stockton. But on an individual stat basis, it's Chris Paul.
No, on the stat basis, it's Chris Paul. Like on the stat basis, a lot of these new generation, last 5-6 year players are better. But if you're knowledgeable of basketball like we are, we could all know that if you put KJ, Mark Price, Gary Payton, half these dudes, even Vinny Johnson, Microwave Johnson, and Joe Dumars, like they would eat with this league, man.
It's arguable. It's an arguable debate. And I also understand what Chuck's saying, though. The numbers just, and some people would argue even with Chris Paul with the numbers, like, did he play longer? Possibly.
Man, Stockton played 19 seasons.
Like, for instance,
3 in season 20 right now.
Would you take Luka? Would you take Luka over Gary Payton?
Yeah, I mean that's not a fair comparison. I mean,
would you take Luka over Reggie Miller?
That's still not fair because one is just a flat out shooter. Another one can do so many things.
But even the way that they impacted the game, and even the way they played defense, hustled, played the game.
I get where you're going. Yeah, like, I get it.
But this generation will argue with us. They'll be like, "Well, Luka did this. Luka gives you triple, but Luka plays absolutely no defense."
But who is more? All right, give me a better comparison than Luka though, because those are not good comparisons.
I gave you Gary Payton because they both played a point, and they're both oversized point guards.
Yeah, but I mean, of course, Luka has a better offensive set. Give me more of a. Is it a Tony Kukoc? Is it what's more comparable to Luka and his skill set?
Dominique Wilkins.
Okay. They're not skill set wise. Luka probably could do more, but okay, that's a good one. Okay, Bernard King. Okay. I mean, yeah, you would take Bernard.
Yeah, but I bet you all these players will argue. Even to keep it real, we'll keep it more current. Carmelo Anthony.
With Luka? Now that's a good one because I probably would still go with Carmelo. But here's the thing. There's an argument there, though, for Luka, because the thing about it is, Cole, it's like, how old is Luka right now?
Probably 27 max.
Okay, I don't even think he's that old.
Yeah,
but let's say that he is. If you take Luka versus Carmelo,
he's 25 years old.
25.
He's 25. Okay. Now, one thing that the people who are pro Luka could say is, as young as he is, and as much of a deficit, I don't want to say deficit, but as much as he lacks on defense, you could argue that what he does well on offense, they've been to an NBA Finals riding his back like that. And yeah, I know Kyrie and the way that team is built, they deserve a lot of credit, but you can't say that about Melo. And they're similar in terms of skill, but I mean, even then, I think now that's a better comparison. And you're getting better with those. I mean, we went from Payton to Melo. Now T-Mac is a good comparison.
Vince Carter.
I would say T-Mac. Let's say T-Mac because they both offensively are just great to me. Him and Luka. But even then, the people for Luka could say the way that Luka is playing, and maybe T-Mac is not a good because T-Mac got hurt.
Two more for you then. I got two more. Well, both of them got hurt, but Grant Hill and Brandon Roy.
See, and again, even with those people that's pro Luka gonna say at 24 years old, he took his team to the finals.
Jason Kidd.
Same thing.
You think Luka's better than Jason Kidd?
I don't think he's better than Jason Kidd, but it's arguable if you pro Luka. Look
Jason
what he's
Kidd
done.
went to finals too.
Yeah, but look at like right now, Luka's not a complete player. Like it's even an unfair comparison because we don't know his finished body of work. Like we're comparing him to players that have a finished body of work. Like if he develops, and what I mean, and I get what you're saying. If he develops and he just gives you something on defense and they win a championship, well, you know what I'm saying? But I get what you're saying. He just gives you nothing on the other side of the floor. Now, the question is, and I think this is what you're saying, I would take those guys over Luka because he doesn't play defense. And I get you. I'm with you.
James Harden.
But it's arguable.
James
It's arguable. Yeah, then that's another good one because some people call him the version of a bigger version of Harden. That's a great comparison. That's probably the best one. Let's talk about that, and then we'll move on. Okay, him and James Harden.
I think James Harden's better.
And you got a case. You got a case because James Harden, but again, he's still developing. But some people could still say, Cole, he did something that Harden didn't do. He took his team to the finals. You can't use Oklahoma City because that was on the back of KD. Luka was the number one player on the Dallas Mavericks team that went to the finals.
Westbrook
still wasn't the number one player. It was Durant.
But even the years that he won MVP, Westbrook is more well-rounded.
Well, again, the question is you would prefer, and I'm with you, but the people that's pro Luka, man, like it's hard to do what he does and play no defense and take a team to the finals.
I give it.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's how good he is on offense.
But he's probably that type of player I'd be frustrated to have as a teammate.
No, I get you. I would prefer a lot more people than that, but I see where Chuck coming from because it's like, dog, he 25 years old. He ain't playing no defense and they went to the finals. Just imagine if he gave you 25% of defense the way he plays on offense. I mean, he's that good on offense.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? All right. Out of the next three choices, which PG are you building your franchise around? Cade Cunningham, Ja Morant, or LaMelo Ball?
Cade Cunningham, Ja Morant. LaMelo, I'm over, yo. Like, it's time for either them to bring some more talent to help him or trade him. I love Cade. He reminds me of a Grant Hill, but not Grant Hill. Like, I just love his all-around game and how he makes people better.
But who you building your franchise around?
I'm building around Cade because I feel like he's more versatile. I love Ja. Ja is my guy, but Cade, when you can play 1, 2, 3, 4 positions, you can. It gives you the luxury of drafting. Do you want to draft a point guard and move him off the ball? Do you want to draft a 2 guard and keep him on the ball? Do you want to play small forward and draft a point guard and a 2 guard? Like I feel like more versatility. I feel like with Ja, you could be exposed on defense.
He's so athletic.
He's so athletic. Ja, you can't go wrong. Ja to me is a top 10 talent in the league. But I also think Cade is the top 10 talent in the league. The person who you left out is I'm building a team around Banchero. I personally think Banchero can be.
Well, I'm using point guards, but I think Banchero's a point forward. I'm just going with the point guard position.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Banchero.
I'm going with Cade. I'm going with Cade.
I could see that. At first, I was going to go Ja Morant because he just, man, you can't find that kind of athleticism. I mean, he's arguably more athletic from explosion wide. I mean, let's talk about him. Is he more athletic than a prime Russell Westbrook? Is he more athletic than prime Derrick Rose before the knee injuries? Because he's up there.
He's up there. I feel like
is he more athletic than Russ when Russ was young?
I think they're both equally athletic in their different way. Because I think Russ was powerful, athletic, and I think Ja is
more bouncy, just bouncy.
Is Stacey Augman athletic? If that makes sense. Like
bouncy,
man. Yeah, bouncy. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Rose, is he more athletic than D Rose? John Morant.
I think Rose is a mix of Ja Morant and Westbrook. Yeah, I think he's a mix of both. A little bit more flexibility to his bounciness plus power.
I could see Cade Cunningham. I understand why. Mm-hmm. I understand why. Because here's the thing.
Shooter. He's already a better shooter than Ja too.
Well, with Ja Morant, if you build your team, you're going to need shooters. You're going to need guys that can rebound, even though he can rebound. See, Cade, for me, the reason why I would go with Cade is this. I don't think you have to build, and I'm not saying this about Ja Morant. Mm-hmm. I don't want to put it like this, but this is what I mean. I don't think you have to build a perfect team around Cade Cunningham in order for you guys to win. I think whatever you don't have, he can do.
And that's what I was saying. He's a more versatile piece.
Right. I think if you draft and you say, hey, we got this and that, like if we don't have guys that can match up on the defensive end, 6'7" or taller, he can fill in that. Mm-hmm. If you need a guy to play point guard more, if your point guard is hurt, he can do that. Mm-hmm. If you need a guy to get you a triple-double, he can do that. Your team doesn't have to be perfect with him. Mm-hmm. So that's why I agree with you. You said it another way was versatility. I agree. I would go with K, but I mean, Ja Morant is, man, the talent.
They're going to be good. I want to see them versus OKC or something in there. And I would love to see Jimmy Butler go to a team like the Grizzlies, even that team out.
And that might be, the thing about Jimmy is this, and this is Jimmy is doing himself in. It might work with the Grizzlies because they're not quite too young. Jimmy has been known for destroying young locker rooms. And that may be the coach's fault, but you know how Jimmy is. We admired it because they needed that in Minnesota. But it's like, you know how Jimmy can be, man. He can be unbearable for young players. Now, if you got a veteran presence, yeah. But sometimes he can be unbearable as a teammate. And we love it for the reason why you guys ain't playing hard. He gonna call you out. Because I actually wanted him down here in Houston when Harden was here.
I actually think y'all doing the right thing. Take your time, build it out.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, Jimmy, man, I don't know.
Jimmy's definitely a piece I wouldn't recommend. I think a piece y'all could go for, but I think it'd be too much. It'd be like someone like a Giannis. But then y'all have to give away too much.
I give away the whole team. All right, let's ask this question. I want to ask this because nobody talks about this. An anonymous NBA executive says DeMar DeRozan's game doesn't translate to winning basketball. That same executive adds the following commentary. DeRozan is a highly skilled player who is great to have in the locker room and a guy who you want to give the ball to at the end of the game. But his play hasn't driven winning. And it's something that unfortunately has been the case throughout his career. And is part of why he changed teams a bunch. Now, how do you feel about that observation when you talk about DeMar DeRozan? Because here's the thing. It sounds overly critical. But when you think about what his career has been right now, when you think about this conclusion that this executive made, there's some truth to it. Because here's the thing. He is highly skilled. Mm-hmm. He is a great locker room guy. And he is clutch when it comes if you need a shot. Mm-hmm. But he hadn't been close to an NBA championship. And many of those teams, he's supposed to have been the best player. Now, in Toronto, that's when LeBron was at the height of his powers in Cleveland. Nobody was going to beat LeBron. Mm-hmm. But even in San Antonio and Chicago, And I think now he's where he's supposed to be in Sacramento. But this might be a fair criticism because you talk about winning. You talk about getting over that hump. What does DeRozan do other than score? He scores tough buckets. He fills up the stat sheet in terms of points. But what can we say that he has done in his career that would produce winning? Because when you think about his career, he's always played well individually. He's always hit a lot of, game-winning shots. He's been known for that. And he's been known to go off of 40 or 50 points. But he hadn't necessarily won, Cole.
I think he's always played at teams that's always been in the middle. Never there. Never have all the pieces together.
But that's why the criticism could be fair, because he supposedly was supposed to be the number one guy on those teams.
But I also felt like he's always been traded to get the number one guy on the team. And could Toronto have made a run at the Eastern Conference Finals that year? I think yes, they were always good. I feel like had he would have stayed in San Antonio and then he would have added a piece or two, they could have been good. Because I felt like he's been to places and they got better. Chicago, his first year, got better than him and Lonzo. Well, Lonzo Ball got injured. Levine got injured, but he went there, got better. Went to Toronto, they were pretty good with him and Lowry, whatever. They just couldn't get over the top because they were better teams in the East. I felt went to San Antonio. No one expected San Antonio to be as good as they were when he went there. Sacramento, this is the first time he's went somewhere, but I didn't expect much out of him. He's 35 years old. Like, what do you expect from him? I think he's a role player on a good team who can still give you anywhere between 15 and 20 points a game.
But do you think it's fair, though? Because, and maybe it's this, and you may have said this, and I may be interpreting this like you're saying it, or maybe interpreted the wrong way, but maybe he's been put in that number one spot and he's not a number one player.
He's not a number one.
Maybe he's a great number two guy.
He's a great number two or number three. To me, he would be a number three on my team. Like a team that I would love to see him play on.
Let's talk about, so at the height of his powers, do you think he was a great two?
Sacramento?
Huh?
Now, that's why I think in Sacramento it works. I think that's what he is. I think he's a great number three, to Cole's point. But let's talk about the prime of his career, though. Cole, was he ever the prime of his career? What do we think is? Was it Toronto? Was it San Antonio? What would you think was when he was at his best?
When he was at his best, it was between Toronto and San Antonio.
Okay, let's talk about that.
His issue with Sacramento is because I don't think Sacramento has a true number one. I think Fox is a number two.
Okay, and that's fair. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about his prime. Let's talk about the years between San Antonio and Toronto. Do you think he was a number one player then?
I don't think he was a number one. I think there was seasons where he was the number two option, just needed a number one for him to get over the hump.
So I agree with that. That's why I think maybe this criticism, I think it's some
fair. I think it's
some credit to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think this, when I say to this NBA exec, I don't think he was a number one player, even at his prime. And I think that was the team's problem. I think it should have been another superstar.
I agree.
That should have been there. For example, I say this all the time about Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook became who he was because Durant wasn't doing what he should have been doing. So Russ is the guy that, because I play so hard and I have this undeniable desire to play hard, if you won't take the last shot, if you won't do the thing, I'll do it. But I'm really a number two guy.
I agree.
But I got the NBA MVP just because I just played hard every night. I don't necessarily have the skill set to be a number one guy, but I play so hard. And I think because Kevin Durant didn't do what he was supposed to do in Oklahoma City, thus you see the MVP Russ start to emerge or evolve. I think the same thing with DeRozan in Toronto. I don't think they had anybody there that's supposed to hold that number one spot down. I agree with you. I think he's a great number two guy. I don't think Toronto put somebody over there to be the number one. So I think this criticism is a little bit unfair, but I can see this criticism if we're putting him in the category of a number one player, then yes, he's underachieved. But I don't think he's a number one player, if that makes sense. You know, I think he needs a Durant. I think he needed a LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll go to another example. Some people think I'm wrong about this, but I think Kyrie Irving is where he's supposed to be. I think Luka should be number one, and I think Kyrie is a great number two. We've seen Kyrie as a number one in Cleveland, and it's not his fault, but I don't think he's a number one player.
I don't think he's a number one player anywhere. I think Kyrie, you put him on Orlando, they win a chip this year.
Yeah. I think he's a big success in Dallas, but the role that he's in is the reason why they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? That's what I thought DeRozan was his whole career. I think it can work in Sacramento because I think he's a number three guy. I think he should be coming off the bench doing what he's doing. You know, and there's some issues there in Sacramento, you know, whether it be Fox or Sabonis, there's something there that they need to get together. But I think DeRozan is where he should have been the whole career, where he's at now. But unfortunately, the teams that he's been on, because he has the talent and the ability to get buckets, we've put him in a number one spot. But I don't think he's been a number one player.
I feel like when I think of Kyrie, I think of like Lillard. Lillard's not a number one. Lillard's
right.
number two.
Right.
Like Lillard just came on the team at the wrong time. He came on where I just feel like a lot of the players that used to be great or really good on Milwaukee are now going downhill. And Lillard also doesn't have the ability to do some of the things that he used to do.
And a lot of the shots that Leonard had to take were low percentage shots.
Yeah.
And so I agree because at the end of the day, and again, think about Kyrie in Cleveland. It was a highlight show, but they weren't winning games.
Yep.
In steps LeBron, in steps Kevin Love, a great number three, they win a championship. And so as great as Kyrie is, he's not a number one player, but he's a great Robin to a Batman.
I agree.
So I think DeRozan has been in that same category as well. I think the same thing, and Chuck can feel me on this. Some people don't think I'm wrong with this because this dude played on a dream team, but Drexler didn't win a championship till he came to Houston, and he was a great number two to Elijah.
He was not a good number one.
Exactly.
And they tried to make him.
Comparing
him to Jordan.
Right. He wasn't. And when he got to Houston, that's when he won a championship because that's what he was. He was a great number two guy to an Elijah one. So I think the same thing about Okay, all right, we need to wrap up pretty soon. All right, let's get down to the college. I got 2 questions, and we'll save the boxing for next week. All right, Cole. Here's the question I've been asking people. Why hasn't it been an NCAA champion on the West Coast in basketball and football in so long? Let's take basketball for an example. Let's talk about that. Now, the last time we had an NCAA champion in basketball from the West Coast was Arizona in the 90s. And I'm talking about Miles Simon, Mike Bibby, those guys. Now, it might have been Arenas in them. I'm sorry. Was it Arenas and Richard Jefferson? Okay. So even in football, and here's the thing, in basketball, Gonzaga has been there. They've been there. But let's talk about, I don't even really consider Gonzaga really West Coast, even though it is. I'm talking more about California. But I also base this off of Cole and Chuck. This past year, I'm saying to myself, why is it that Oregon football all year long, top 5, they might even grab a number 1 ranking during the season, and they get to the playoffs, and this is in basketball too, in the Sweet 16, or they get in the tournament and they get blown out to the point where they look like they shouldn't even been there. Look what Ohio State did to Oregon this year. And it made me wonder in basketball, Chuck, and I don't know you remember this back in the 90s, there was a time here in Texas where a kid would actually skip Texas if he was an All-American in basketball and go to Arizona. But they haven't won a championship on the West Coast or been near one, other than Gonzaga, in years. Cole, why do you think that's what's going on? Because here's the thing. I asked this question too. Calipari was free when he left Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that in a historical program like UCLA, USC, and I know there are more football schools, but UCLA won a championship with Toby and all them back in the 90s, the O'Bannon brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that they didn't throw a lot of money at Calipari? Why is it that they're not even big-time coaches are going to the West Coast to coach basketball? That's a historic program, UCLA. Lou Alcindor. They've had Russell Westbrook. Of course, he wasn't what he was when he was there, when he became in the NBA. Baron Davis. I'm looking at California and I'm saying to myself, there's enough talent in high school football and basketball in California. In football, the top 3 states in football, California, Texas, and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't been close, Cole. Why do you think it's not happening on the West Coast? Because here's the thing. Kids are not even going out there. And I remember that time where when kids from the South and the East Coast would go to the West Coast to play. Nobody's going out there to play other than the West Coast kids.
I think a lot of it probably has to do with conference play now. I think that certain conferences have a majority of the top talent, also have the majority of the endorsement, TV deals, and everything like that. And I think
Carl, let me interrupt you. I'm recruiting you from Oregon in basketball. Number one, what I'm telling you is this. We're in the top 25 all year. We got Nike Town.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get an NIL out here because it ain't nothing else out here other than the Trailblazers, and we've been more successful than the Trailblazers.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't get kids out there.
Because you could
the West Coast kids.
But think about it. You go play in the ACC, you play in North Carolina, you play in Duke, you play in freaking Syracuse, you playing all over the country. You playing national head coaches that are going to be Hall of Famers, and you're playing against the top talent in all of college basketball, AAU, high school basketball that goes to these places. And then some of these schools are even big in football. So if you're a dual sports star, or you're just getting more money at your institution because they're football and basketball institutions as well with some of them. So,
but even UCLA, USC are historic football programs. You remember them in the 2000s?
But they're not in the SEC playing against Alabama, Georgia, all these top teams that are producing NFL players.
But the thing is, they're still historic football house programs. You had O.J. Simpson. I mean,
but you got to think about how we used to be.
Reggie Bush.
That meant something to us in our era. But this is the era where can I promote my brand more, and where can I get this NIL deal and all that other stuff? That stuff is more important to.
Cole, you telling me that Arkansas basketball can pay John Calipari more money than UCLA can?
Because a lot of these schools get more money from the football programs too. You got to understand.
Yeah, but even then, even my example, UCLA versus Arkansas football, they're about the same.
SEC.
Arkansas is in a tougher conference, but they doing the same thing record-wise as UCLA.
They probably are, but the SEC is bringing in a lot of money. SEC produces champions. You know what I mean? Arkansas isn't no slouch either. Arkansas used to be known for Scotty Thurman and Corliss Williamson and all that stuff.
But it's been a long time before they've been significant in basketball. And that's my point. But here's the thing.
Who's in the Pac-12, though? What UCLA?
It doesn't matter. You got so much talent in California. Like, you got so much talent on the West Coast that, I mean, look at this. Harden's a West Coast kid. Kawhi Leonard's a West Coast kid. You got kids that are from over there, but they can't. I don't know if they get them over there. They can't win an NCAA championship in football. And like, they don't even. When Oregon gets to the Sweet 16 in basketball, they get blown out. Like, they shouldn't even be there.
For your team that was good, and that's because they had Reggie Bush, Liner, Liddell White, all the mother. That's the last time a West Coast team.
That's my point.
When it came to basketball, the last probably prominent
we could say Gonzaga because Gonzaga's program, but I kind of keep them on the outside because they're in Washington. I mean, let's talk about NCAA football, then we'll move on. Like, Washington went to the championship with Penix, okay? But they flew under the radar. You know what I'm saying? And even in the championship game, didn't Michigan house them in the championship game?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a phenomenon to me. California has a lot of talent. In fact, the whole West Coast, the talent comes from California. Nobody's been close out there in terms of, especially basketball. I'm mainly talking about basketball. Like, they have not won an NCAA championship since them Arizona teams with Arenas, Richard Jefferson. So, is it the taxes? They can't get coaches to go out there and coach. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's just me. It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know if this is true. It doesn't make sense to me that Calipari gets a lot of money thrown at him from Arkansas, who hadn't really done anything not that much better than UCLA in basketball. UCLA is a Jordan brand school. How is it they're not in the running for a John Calipari?
But I also get from the standpoint of these dudes probably looking at it from the standpoint of let's steal them away from our rival in the SEC. Let's get them out of Kentucky, bring them over here, and bring some relevancy back to Arkansas. So we'll overpay just to have them.
But it's money. You mean to tell me it ain't money in UCLA?
I'm not saying there ain't money.
Cronin's done a good job over there. I'm not taking nothing from Nick Cronin.
You don't have the numbers, but if you ask me the two leagues in all of college football that stands out when someone says their name is ACC and SEC.
I get that, Cole.
Well, I'm not thinking about no school over there.
Yeah, but these are historic football programs.
That's for us. Again, where I said this younger generation, they don't think like that. They'll be the first ones to tell you that Lil Durk is better than freaking Jay-Z and Nas. You know what I mean? Like,
but okay, all right, for coaches, then why we can't get coaches to go out there and coach? Is it the taxes? What is it? You can't get a historic coach to go out there. Like my man that said UConn.
Now, too, though. A lot of historic coaches are stepping down saying, I don't have time for this nil stuff. I don't have time to be babying.
Yeah, but they still going to schools on the East Coast.
True.
It's cold. California is warm. Mm-hmm. It's warm. UCLA, they got just as much money as UConn. They got just as much money as Alabama. But you can't get a historic coach to go out there. Like,
it could be
we're gonna get off this subject because it's taking a long time. But Belichick, right? You mean to tell me North Carolina can throw a lot of money at him to come back and coach football in North Carolina, and UCLA couldn't offer him, USC couldn't offer him the same money? They not winning out there, just like North Carolina not winning out there. How come no West Coast team is in the hunt for Bill Belichick, who will probably take what he not worth just to coach? Like, he's coaching at North Carolina. You mean to tell me when is North Carolina, even recently, they've been better at football? But how is it North Carolina can land a Bill Belichick and UCLA can't?
Cost of living is cheaper in North Carolina.
Gotta be that.
Cheaper. Like, it could be that. It could be that.
Cost of living and the taxes. Like the whole West Coast economy is
wild.
Yeah.
But you still got Silicon Valley, baby. I don't know about the NIL next week. Let's get to these shout outs and get out of here so we can catch this national championship game. All right, shout out to Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receiver Mike Evans for tying Jerry Rice's record with 11 consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards receiving. Shout out to Lamar Jackson for becoming the first player in NFL history with over 4,000 yards passing and 800 yards rushing in a single season. Shout out to Coach Don Staley, head coach of South Carolina women's basketball, for recently signing a contract extension, keeping her with South Carolina until 2030. The new contract will make Staley the highest paid college women's basketball coach in the history of the sport. They're not even telling you how much it is. They're just saying that she's going to be the highest paid. Shout out to her. She deserves it. Shout out to Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase for finishing the regular season with 127 receptions, which is first in the NFL. He also finished first in yards with 1,708 and 17 receptions and TDs. He finished first in that as well. So shout out to Jamar Chase, man. I know he's been doing a lot of complaining off the field, but he has definitely performed on the field, man. Cole, you got any shout outs, man, before we get out of here?
Shout out to freaking my man Josh Allen for the performance he put on yesterday. Shout out to Lamar Jackson just for the seasons that he had. I know that he had some turnovers, but for what he's did with the 4,000 yards, just underneath 1,000 yards rushing, I definitely got to commend him on that. Shout out to Henry for the way he ran the ball when, the Titans gave up on him and teams like Dallas passed up on him for showing him that he still has it. And shout out for Jaden Daniels for possibly being one of the first few rookies that actually goes straight to the Super Bowl. He might be the first rookie to go straight to the Super Bowl.
He got a shot, man. He got a shot.
So, shout out to black quarterbacks. We have 3 in the Final Four, So this is definitely come a long way to society thinking black men can't be quarterbacks in this league. So shout out for that. And shout out to you guys. Happy New Year's. Wishing y'all all the best and be safe during this snowstorm. So.
Oh, one more last thing, man. It looks like it's going to happen. It looks like Crawford and Canelo are going to fight in September.
Yes, man. And I can't wait. I actually got Crawford winning.
You got Crawford winning by decision?
I got Crawford whooping him out. Like, I beating him up. Like, he ain't going to knock him out. I don't think he's going to knock him out.
Nah, he's not going to knock him out.
Because Canelo has one of those type of chins, but I think he's going to pull a Mayweather and outbox him.
He's going to have to do it that way if he's going to do it. The only thing that worries me about Crawford is, unlike Mayweather will stick to that game plan because he's very cerebral. Crawford, what makes him a killer, if you hit him with a big shot, he wants that get back. He can't do that at 168 pounds, but we will be watching. Chuck, if that fight happens in September, we're going to have a debate with pay-per-view party. All right.
Yes, sir.
But shout out to my man, Chuck. Shout out to Cole for giving us another fire episode. Shout out to MoSerious.com for putting us on at Debate with Bait. Thank you, Chuck, for welcoming us back. Yes, we have been here for 4 seasons. Give us a hand clap for that, Chuck. We survived. Shout out to Ro, our other panel member who could not be here. Ro, stay warm. Make sure that everybody in Houston, make sure you cover your pipes. And let's get through this winter storm. But shout out to everybody who's been supporting the show. Like I said before, shout out to Chuck and everybody else that made this possible for a 4th season. We will be back with another episode 2. Shout out to MoSerious.com. Shout out to all the other panel members on MoSerious.com. Guns down, gloves up with Mr. Dr. Jeremiah, Mr. Johnny Binder, by the way. But I like to call him Dr. Jeremiah. But shout out to him. And shout out to the audience, man. And we will be back. Welcome back to another season. And we will see y'all the next time. We are out of here.
Peace.
Debate with bait. Season 4. Let's go. Here we go. Debate with Bait Sports Show. Season 4, live at Mo City Radio. We talking basketball, football, and boxing. You got something to say, man? Jump up in them comments. We just giving opinions, supporting it with proof. Let's look at the stats, cause numbers tell the truth. It ain't no hating, we just debating, interviewing guests so we can learn how they operating. Shout out to PrizePicks for the daily fantasy. Invest a few dollars, let's do some gambling. C-Bake got the topics and he keep it cracking. Laro got the commentary and he never lacking. Cole with the game, he live from the Big Apple. You know, Mo Serious Entertainment made it happen. Another sports show, we live from the Mo. Debate with Bake, season 4, let's go.